This is red rag to a bull, my friend. I am pretty het up about this. And it's not necessarily just because I'm actually embarrassed. Like, I'm embarrassed as to what's happened today on a world scale. And it's not necessary. This is the thing, right? You know what we do? We hold this government to account as they held the last government to. If Luxon had had a little bit more humility when Labour had their reshuffles and their problems in cabinet and gone, because this is what I would do. You know, look, it's pretty embarrassing for Labour, but I'm sure at some stage in our 3-year plan, we're going to have to move people around and that. And then they'll say it's embarrassing for us. If he had been a realist for it, rather than just basically saying, well, this means you got to change your leadership. In fact, I put a tweet out. I'll find the tweet. Let me find the tweet, because I actually put one of his tweets up. This is a bit behind the old, behind the curtain a little bit, isn't it? Oh, look, there's a podcast going on right now. This is the one. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. So this is what Christopher Luxon said about Michael Wood resigning. Not quite apples for apples, but, you know, upheaval in the cabinet. The Labour government is falling apart with the announcement a few minutes ago that Michael Wood has resigned from cabinet. Instead of focusing on how to fix the economy and restore law and order, it is incredibly frustrating to again be talking about Labour's personal issues. Excuse me? It's time for change. Okay. And it can't come soon enough. This election, you have the choice between continuing chaos under Labour or a national government that will get our country back on cuck. So my text was, yoicks, that hasn't aged well. 6 months in a cabinet in disarray. Wonder if Luxon still thinks this kind of turmoil requires a change of government. That was his standard, right? And I know some people are going to go, no, it's not the same. It's only 2 people. No, as soon as Labour had any kind of upheaval in their cabinet, Luxon was out there going, see, turmoil, see? And so it's actually appropriate and fair for us to point out the same standard that he's at. And yeah,
Pat,
and I'm
so long ago.
No, shut up.
So long ago.
So let's get to the story. And the story is actually not the bit that I'm kind of most embarrassed about for our country. We'll get to that as we go through.
This is how I roll. That's the tough line from the Prime Minister as he rolled a couple of his ministers from their positions. In Christopher Luxon's surprise reshuffle, Melissa Lee is out, stripped of her broadcasting portfolio as the media industry faces huge financial challenges. She's also been axed from cabinet. Paul Goldsmith will take over.
Now, I don't care what anybody says. Ministers change portfolios often. Being kicked out of cabinet, there is something more to this story.
Yeah.
Mark my words, there is something more. Because being kicked out of cabinet is an absolute signal. It's an absolute slight, without question. So I predict there is more to come, in particular about the Melissa Lee thing. Because, yeah, ministers change their portfolios all the time, but they don't get removed from cabinet unless something else is afoot, Chewy.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Over as Minister for Media and Communications. And Penny Simmons loses the disability issues portfolio amid controversy over changes to disability funding. Louise Upston takes over. With reaction, here's political editor Mikey Sherman.
As supercars raced in Taupo on Sunday, Minister Melissa Lee was all revved up.
Can you believe the atmosphere? Can you believe the crowd? It is buzzing here. It is absolute pleasure to host you.
But if there was any buzz left over, it was completely zapped today. Melissa Lee and Penny Simmons stripped from key portfolios.
What this is about is me sitting as Prime Minister, looking across my team and saying, have I got the right people on the right assignments at this point in time? And my assessment is, in both these cases, on disability and on media and communications, I want to make a change.
The former
Okay, we're going to come back to this, and I'll get some, obviously, stats that you already know, but we want to talk about it. Have I got the right people? Have I got the right people for the job? Was Melissa Lee the right person? We'll get to that in a sec.
CEO dishing out a brutal blow.
I'm just one of those people, and I've done it in my former life. I will make constant adjustments to my team to make sure I've got the right people.
And there's plenty more where that came from.
You're going to see me continue to do this. This is how I roll. This is how I lead.
But ultimately, if he's going to be reshuffling every time he detects ministerial underperformance in a portfolio, it's going to be like a fast-spinning revolving door.
With hundreds of media jobs axed, including the closure of Newshub, the minister struggled to respond.
Well, there's Sky.
Like, we all agree that this was terrible. It was terrible. And look, I don't actually have a problem with her losing her portfolio. Probably is appropriate. The situation is, we are going to now hold you accountable, Mr. Luxon, to how you held Labor accountable. This is what it's about. It's actually not even about necessarily this person. It's like, I just had those vibes of Donald Trump. I picked the best people. I picked the best people for the job. It's like, well, hang on. You've made these selections, Mr. Luxon, so is this a fault with you? Or is this a fault with the people? Of course, at no stage did he say it was a fault with the people, because he has to still put on a front. I actually said, I have confidence in them. Really? So why are they losing their portfolios? Because I have confidence in them, I don't know, making the sandwiches for halftime, but not handling that portfolio.
That much confidence.
Not that much. Little C confidence.
As well. There's a whole lot of other medias about. If I was a magician, if I could actually just snap up a solution, that would be fantastic, but I'm not a magician.
I think there'll be a collective sigh of relief around the media at Lee's sacking. It just felt like she wasn't really engaged with the issues and the crisis that is facing us.
Penny Simmons also in the gun after a botched announcement over
and also completely fair.
Entitlements.
Funding has also
maybe more so actually, because this was actually a balls up within her portfolio, as opposed to Melissa Lee just not handling a crisis well. This was actually something that affected people within her portfolio from the funding from the government. So I think this is even more deserved.
used for massages, overseas travel, pedicures, haircuts for carers.
My assessment is that the issues are complex, and I want senior cabinet ministers being responsible for those issues.
So, sorry about the freeze frame there, Bryce. Senior people, he wants senior people, right? Senior people. So let's talk to Melissa Lee. She was a journalist in a former life. She ran a media company. She did all the journalistic things behind the scenes as well, like getting grants and, talking to NZ on air. So she has that experience. She's been an MP for 16 years. She's been the spokesman for broadcasting and media in opposition for 6 years. How much more fucking senior can you get than a former journalist who worked as management in the media sector, who's been an MP for 16 years, who's worked in the media portfolio for 7 years, if you include the little jaunt as minister, and he's trying to say now, we need senior people in this position, from the man who's been in politics for 3 years. Well, if we need senior people, what the hell are you doing, Chewy?
Yeah. No, exactly right. Trying to pretend that she's a new minister or something like that. She absolutely bobbled it. Like, she didn't seem engaged at any point. She seemed almost gleeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Paul. She's been in Parliament longer than Luxon has.
Yeah.
Like, it's just foolish.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep going with this story.
Really going to buy that. It's simply about underperforming ministers that have created problems.
While both women remain as ministers in other portfolios, Melissa Lee's been booted from cabinet.
It's disappointing certainly for Melissa. I get that and I understand that, and she played that back to me, and I fully understand. It's a tough day.
I don't quite understand what that means either. She played that back to me. It's a strange. I wonder if that's from some kind of Friedman file on how to run a business. She played that back to me.
A tough day with plenty of lessons.
All right. So listen up, my little friends. I want to play one more bit from TV3, from Newshub, only because there's a particular phrase that's going around all the media at the moment that wasn't used in that one news story. So I've got it's only about 20 seconds to play here. This is what's embarrassed me from today.
This is really about making sure we have the right people on the right assignment at the right time.
The Prime Minister refused to say it was the demoted pair's performances which forced his reshuffle of the deck.
I want to make sure I've got all my aces in their places, that people are really contributing. I want to make sure that every minister is actually powered up, ready to go, doing a good job on their portfolios. So, Chewy, there's been criticism of Mr. Luxon that he's really a middle manager. He just said, I want to get all my aces in their places. Like he's just come back from a fucking leadership retreat
where they've been given the new slogans to get the lower level management in there. I made something today. I did it pretty quick and it's not particularly good, but you know the movie Office Space. Love that movie. This is what it made me think of. Just over Milton there. Get your aces in their places. And I'm actually embarrassed he said it. And this is why I'm embarrassed. I'll show you the kinds of people who use that phrase. You ready for this? Don't mean any offense to this lovely gentleman who's doing his own business, but this is basically your Prime Minister, Fano.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Joel Parker, and this is Whiteboard Wednesday.
Whiteboard Wednesday, guys.
This week I'm talking about putting your aces in their places. And this is to do with finding out...
This is your Prime Minister. This is the level of management your Prime Minister has got. And honestly, I am fucking embarrassed, Chewy. I'm embarrassed. Now, I know I've kind of jumped over the actual Melissa Lee story, so have at it, sir. That's me.
No, I've worked for some organisations where this sort of language would be used to motivate and that sort of thing, and it just feels like it's straight out of a how to be an effective people manager handbook or pamphlet that you've downloaded.
Pamphlet, yeah.
And this is because this is the world that he's come up in.
Yep.
Bigger organisations as middle management, and he's been positioned as a leader, and it's just like effective leaders don't need these sort of bumper sticker slogans.
Pithy bumper stickers, yeah, for sure.
You know, and I think it's jarring. Like, politicians are definitely prone to particular turns of phrases or ways of speaking and that sort of thing. And this isn't it. This is corporate buzzwords. And we knew that going into the election, that he was a corporate buzzword fucking generator.
Yeah.
You know, I made jokes at the time about a corporate Scrabble board being thrown into a ceiling fan to see what he'd make a statement about. You know, like Hipkins was lashed at the time when he had to replace people for good reasons.
Yep.
Absolutely lashed. Poor leader, government falling apart, that sort of thing. And then in the same position where, and again, I think it's the correct decision to demote these two ministers.
I agree.
They absolutely dropped the ball, and some of the things that were said directed at the disabled community and their carers were disgraceful. Like, they're all on the rort on the public tit.
Yeah.
Like, looking after disabled people as a walk in the park, absolutely disgraceful. Should have been gone immediately. Absolutely made their government look like an utter shambles. That's definitely well within the realms of, like, you gotta go. But in that same position, Luxon is positioning himself as a bold and decisive leader, where someone that was in a very similar position last year is weak and ineffectual and doesn't have the right people.
Yeah.
Like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, my dude.
Like,
if you talk about aces in your places, you know what the good time to do that was for? For the fucking election.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that you just didn't hit the ground running with your A team? You're just working out the kinks now? Come on.
I pick all the best people. I have the best people around me at all times. So there's only two possibilities here. Either Melissa Lee needs to be thrown under the bus, or Luxon needs to admit that he is not good at picking staff. Kia ora again, whānau. The clip you've just watched is brought to you today by our patrons. If you want to be a part of what we do, if you want to get behind what we're doing, if you're enjoying our content and wanting to share our content, then maybe you would consider being a patron to Big Hairy News. Head to www.patreon.com/Big Hairy News to sign up to one of our levels and be a patron. At this point, we are only a listener and viewer supported show. It all comes down to you guys. If you feel like jumping on board to help, then head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Hooroo.